All right, I'm going to try this. If you could tell, I'm in between hairstyles, and I was going to my hairdresser, and it's not Sports Clips anymore. Sports Clips was awesome, but my wife said no bueno, no more, no mas. You don't look good. So she sends me to her hairdresser, and during my last haircut, he said, "How did you meet your wife?" And I told him the story, and he goes, "Wow, that's a real story of hope, and you need to tell that more often." So I'm going to use this time here to tell you how I met my wife. Now, I've been married twice. Both of my wife's names are Christine. That's crazy. My first wife, Christine, we'll call her Chris. And the second wife, Christine, we'll call her Christine 2.0. Now, here's what happened. Christine 2.0, she loves that. Here's how I met my second wife. Um, Truly a blessing and a story of hope. I was at a low point. I moved far, far away from where I used to live. I lived in Blythewood, South Carolina, and it was there where my 25-year marriage blew up. Poof, just disintegrated. There were certain lines in a marriage that shouldn't be crossed. They were crossed. And then there was a cover up, deceit, lies. It was a hot mess. Now, everyone out there is looking at me right now in the video. What did you do? Hey, this is my video. No one's the bad guy in their story, but I didn't do the act. I didn't cross the line. Somebody else did, my ex-wife. So the line was crossed, and I found myself on the struggle bus. In the South Carolina, you have to be separated for a year, which we did. You have to live separately, and I was in the house that we all raised our kids in. It was just absolutely a hellhole for me. Big house, just me. Kids went to college. Blah, sucked. So you do that for a year. Then we sold the house, and then you go to the court, and it's official. And you go to court. Just put it mildly, I was the only one crying in court. The other side did not care, but that's okay. Remember, this is a story of hope. So I moved from Columbia, South Carolina, or specifically Blythewood, to Greenville, South Carolina. I rented an apartment. Went from a big house to a very small apartment. Seriously, it was like 680 square feet, tiny, borderline studio. It did have a wall for the bedroom, but if you take that wall out, it's a studio. I'm not saying it was small, but if you put the key in the front door too far, I would break the back window. That's small. Is this mic on? This is good jokes here. So that's what happened. I was there, and I was in a bad state of mind. My head was at my rear end. I tried dating some folks. No good. They say wait a year till after your divorce is final. That's good advice because you're not thinking clearly. One morning, Sunday, it was a Sunday morning, I was dating this woman in my building, sort of. We used to pal around a lot, and we decided, I told her on Saturday night, hey, why don't you come to church with me? I'm looking for a church. She goes, great. So I go home. She goes home. And the next morning, I'm up and I'm in the lobby of our apartment building, and I'm waiting for her. And I call up to her using her cell phone, call up to her room and say, hey, are you coming down or what? We got to go. And she goes, no, I'm not going to make it. I don't think it was her intention ever to go to church, but she didn't even try. But there I am all dressed, caffeinated, ready to go. And I'm searching for a church. I don't have one. I'm bopping around to different churches to see which one I like. And I said, all right, I'm going to go back to this one called Grace. And I went over there and sat in the back. I got there a little late, but thank God they sing like 3 or 4 songs in the beginning. I didn't miss the message. Get in the back. Boom. I'm good to go. And on the way out, it was a good service. I'm like, all right, I'm starting to dig this service. This is pretty good. They're speaking to me. On the way out, I come out and it's like a square, like this little frame I'm in right now. It's a square. I'm at the bottom here, and I just have to get up here. So I can go either way. It doesn't matter. It's just a city block. I can go across and down. I can go down and across. That's simple. And as I'm walking to the street light changes, and it says, don't walk. So it doesn't matter to me. I can still keep walking. I'm just going to go down and across. I'll go down the street and then cross over to my apartment, square block. As I'm going down the street, there's this woman in my way. Remember, I said highly caffeinated? I drank a lot of coffee. And if you drink a lot of coffee, there's a diuretic effect of coffee. I had to pee so bad, it wasn't even funny. Long service. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get back to my apartment and drain the main vein, as they say. So I'm hustling down the sidewalk. This woman's kind of like, la, 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 going back and forth. I'm trying to get around her. I'm like plotting as I'm, I'm closing in on her. And I'm like, which way am I going to go? Left or right? Finally, she kind of veers left. I said, on your right. And I'm about to blow by her. And in my hand is a sweatshirt from the University of South Carolina. The University of South Carolina, and that's significant. That's where she went to school, but we're also up near Greenville. There's a school called Clemson. And those two are big rivalries. She looks down at my sweatshirt. She says, wow, you don't see too many of those up here, a USC sweatshirt. I said, I get it. We're making like conversation. I said, no. And I turned and looked at her and said, whoa, she's smoking hot. And then I just forgot I had to go to the bathroom. I think I might have wet myself right there. But thank God I wasn't wearing khakis. No, I just like slowed down. I almost blew out a hamstring. I look over and it's like, wow, she's pretty. And we start walking together. And then she tells me halfway through the conversation, I'm like, am I hitting on some guy's wife? This isn't cool because that just happened to me. And halfway through the conversation, she goes, well, ever since my divorce. I'm like, what? Score one for the kid. She's divorced. And it turns out we were divorced about the same time, about a year and a day. It was a year and a day after my divorce was final that I met her. Her name's Christine. Of course, she says that to me. So what's your name? She goes, Christine. I said, of course it is. She goes, why is that? I said, my ex is Chris. Christine. I give her my business card because I had a little card holder in my phone. She kind of jokes that I was handing out cards all over Greenville. That was not the case. I was very selective. She got one. And I only gave out like 100 that day. No, she got the one. And later on that day, she called up and she was wondering what I was doing. I was out and about. I said, I can't. She was downtown again. But I caught up with her the very next day. We had lunch together and the rest is history. Now you know the rest of the story. So what is the moral of the story? One, go to church. You never know who you meet. But two, just put yourself out there. I literally that week, I think I deleted every of those, what do you call it? Dating apps. I was on Bumble. I had some really nice dates with some ladies and they were, coffee dates and stuff. But I was like, I'm not doing this. My head's up my rear end. I'm not ready for prime time. So I deleted it. And then sure enough, walking down the street, organically met this girl, said, hey, on your right, that's my pickup line. You could borrow it if you want. And I said, on your right. And it was funny because that was the week of Thanksgiving. And I said, it's funny because I'm looking at a picture of my mom right there. That's my mom and I at a restaurant. And I went to visit my mom that week. It was Thanksgiving week. I was single. So I drove to Wilmington, North Carolina to visit my mom and dad. And I got in there and I said, Mom, I'm really digging this girl. I just met her this week. She goes, oh, Dennis, you need to slow down. Fast forward a year and a half later, I married her. There you go. And everybody's happy. So that's the story. My hairdresser said that's a story of hope. I was here. And then after meeting Christine, I was here. From my lowest point comes one of my highest points. It's wonderful. We're going on 5 years. And they said it wouldn't last. It's still going. And I cherish every day I wake up next to her. So thank you, God, for that. And I thought you'd all want to hear that because if you're going through something, you think it's bigger than you, you're still growing. And I'm rooting for you. And this story should be a message to everyone. If this guy can get 2 wives, you can get one. That's a fact. And hopefully all you get is one. And until death do you part. But if it doesn't work out, just know for a fact that God has a greater plan for you, and it worked out for me. And I'm rooting for you, and I'm praying that it works out for you. I'm Dennis Gillen, the executive director of the Half a Sorrow Foundation, where we deal with suicide prevention. And that was probably the only time I really even thought about suicide. Was the night I found out my marriage was going south. But as quickly as it entered my mind, I chased it out because of my wonderful kids and family, and it had a happy ending. And I hope you have a happy ending after a long and healthy life. The end.